Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. I'm your host, Kofi Animedu. My guest is a technology thought leader, entrepreneur, and author of Cognitive Organizations, published in 2024. As the founder of DataNeural, an AI consulting firm, and head of strategy at 80/20 Marketing, he is dedicated to helping organizations harness the power of AI agent networks to achieve transformational results. With over 25 years of experience and a global presence spanning Brazil, the UK, and US, he specializes in bridging cutting-edge AI innovations with practical business applications. His clients include Fortune 500 companies and leaders in healthcare, finance, and technology. Through his consulting, workshops, and international keynotes, he equips businesses with frameworks to drive productivity and stay ahead in the AI era. My guest today is Kenneth Correa. Welcome to my show, Kenneth.
Hey, Coffee, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, to be able to share a little bit about this AI revolution, which is happily happening at our own time. So happy to be here.
All right, happy to also have you on my show. Let's kick things off with you telling us a bit about yourself and what really sparked your journey into entrepreneurship and emerging technology.
All right, Coffee. So I am from the western part of Brazil, close to the border with Paraguay. So when you look at the map of South America, I'm in the exact middle spot, north and south and east and west of South America. It's a place called the Pantanal. It's a beautiful wildlife area, as I'm pretty sure you have in Ghana. We have this wet part of Brazil where I come out of. But from where I come from, we only talk about cattle raising and agriculture production of grains. But some 25 years ago, I began my entrepreneurial journey. I started working on some small firms, small office environments, and soon it hit me that there was probably a better way to do what these companies were doing. And I was very happy to be one of the first users of the internet in Brazil. I was part of the first 100,000 users of the internet in Brazil. And of course, the internet opened a big window. And me being an English speaker since I was a kid, of course, Kenneth is not a common name in Brazil, but my grandmother comes from the United States. She not only gave me the name, but also taught me the language. So I was able to read in English what was happening around the world in the mid-1990s. So my entrepreneurial journey started in the year 2005 when I opened my first company.
Okay. And what was this company? What was your first company? Can you tell us about this first company?
Yeah, sure. The name was in Portuguese, but it meant active management. Was a tech consulting firm because again, the internet was in its early beginnings. Remember in 2005, we didn't even have the iPhone yet. E-commerce was having its first steps when people were understanding that Amazon.com being commemorating 10 years at that time, and then new e-commerce stores gained traction in the United States. The very same thing was happening in Brazil, with a little bit of a gap, a delay. So everything happened in the United States, took at least 5 years to begin in Brazil. But whenever the internet came about, I saw that it was easy to bridge that gap. It was easy for me as a tech enthusiast, as somebody who is an early adopter of technology. I had an easy time using the mobile phones or smartphones, and also using the computer, developing and writing code. We didn't have AI yet, but I was already developing code. I was introducing companies to their first digital experience, being that an e-commerce or a website. After the mobile revolution, mobile app, all of that were some of the initiatives that I was charging companies to deliver. So active management was the idea that people should manage their companies in a more proactive way, aiming to deliver results by the use and support of technology.
Okay, all right. So let's still build on your submission. So from that particular point, what next? What did you move to? From that
All
particular,
right.
yeah.
Sure, of course. So, Kofi, starting the company in 2005, that's 20 years ago, we started attending and servicing all sorts of different clients, but those were all local companies. So imagine I'm talking about this small brewery that was brewing beer. I'm talking about this little church in the neighborhood, or helping this small school. After some years passed, we started working with some larger companies. So now not only neighborhood-wide, but citywide and then statewide. And that's when digital marketing started being a thing. I'm talking about around 2007 and 2009, so 4 years into the company. And then there was this company called 80/20 Marketing, which was in its early days, and I became friends with the founders of these companies because we worked together. Every time I had a customer who needed digital marketing, especially social media marketing, I would bring this guy's business in and they would pay me a commission. And whenever they needed something that needed computer code, e-commerce development, website, or mobile apps, they would bring me in and they would pay me a commission. After some months, we realized that we were responsible for 50% of each other's business. And then we said, maybe it's time we skip the dating period and then we get married. That was the metaphor we used at the time. Yes. So we we made a fusion of both companies in the year of 2013. That's 12 years ago. So after that, we did this very same thing 11 times. With 10 different companies, we started merging and acquiring, and then we became a little bit of a powerhouse in our Pantanal region. And we started working with larger clients, now not only citywide or province-wide, but now countrywide. And then continent-wide, we're working with all Latin America. So now we have a team of 95 people in 80/20 Marketing. We service some of the largest companies in the world that operate in Latin America. So all the way from Rio Grande, which is the border of the United States and Mexico. So that's our northern limit. Down to the south of Argentina in a place called Perito Moreno. All of these businesses operating this region are now clients of ours. So that's what we do. We help them with their marketing and product and communications and strategy for their businesses using our team, which is compounded of just 90 more people with different specialties. I'm talking about marketing and technology, especially as main areas. And that's what we have been doing now for 16 years with Petty Marketing.
All right. So thank you for that. I also read in my research that you are a lecturer at the biggest Brazilian business school. Tell me about that part of your life and what you do there.
Of course, Kofi. So being a service provider is always good to have a founder-led marketing. That means that the founder, the people in charge, the executives are doing all the hard work of marketing our company, making our brand content. And being a professor really kicked in as a great strategy, not only because I love the classroom, I love being in a class full of students and exchanging knowledge, but also because some of the students in a business schools are of course working in business, are sometimes business owners themselves. So it's a way for me to be teaching them about whatever we do, marketing and technology-wise, and they will link and connect that with what my company does. So it's very common for me to leave a classroom and the next week get 2 or 3 different emails of people asking for meetings and for business proposals. So it really worked out as a good networking opportunity with executives. But I started teaching back in 2005, so back 20 years ago. So I've always loved management, business administration, understanding the inner twinnings and logics of running a business. And I have been working with education of different technology waves. So 20 years ago was the internet and e-commerce. Some 15 years ago was social media. Some 10 years ago was big data. 8 years ago was blockchain. Some 3 years ago, AI came along. So every different wave of new technologies, or what I call emerging technologies, are all the topics that I would take and bring to the classroom.
All right. So based on your submission, I would like us to break down a couple of things you've mentioned in your submission. So you've mentioned big data, you've mentioned blockchain, you've mentioned AI, and reading about you, I realized that you do a lot about the metaverse and also do a lot when it comes to AI agents. So let's start breaking these concepts down for us to all appreciate. So let's start with big data. When we talk about big data, what are we referring to?
Of course. So the logic of analyzing data is not something new. As business owners, we always have to look to our financial statements. We have to look at our productivity indicators, the KPIs of the business. And that's usually done using some piece of ERP software, that's management software. You can use Microsoft Excel as a spreadsheet, for example. But after we started using the mobile phone, after our lives are now 8-9 hours a day connected to this piece of technology, the amount of data that we generate every time we unlock the screen, every time we open up an app, every time we connect on a website or look at a social media feed, every small action that we do with a smartphone generates a piece of data. And analyzing this data can give you amazing insight in how the customer behaves, how the customer reacts to the content you're creating, which products or services will have a greater impact on customers. All of that is something that you can use out of analyzing this data. But the thing is, it's too much data. You cannot put it on Microsoft Excel. It's not enough. You cannot use a single computer to process this data. You need a network of servers. You need sometimes a GPU, the graphics cards, to process this data. So big data is the process of extracting value out of bigger and bigger databases. They are not only big, but they are growing and growing all the time.
Okay, so how about blockchain? When we talk about blockchain technology, what are you referring to?
Sure. Blockchain is the technology behind the Bitcoin, Bitcoin being the most pervasive use of this piece of technology, but it's not limited to digital currency. Actually, blockchain technology is called a distributed ledger technology, which means you have distributed servers with the same data recorded. And now when you use blockchain, you cannot delete. For example, a hacker cannot get into a server and delete a piece of data from that server. Because if he can do that, you have other copies of that same information in other servers. So it's a technology based on trust. Trust that every piece of data in that database is immutable, is unchangeable. So blockchain technology is very useful in scenarios where you need to be absolutely certain that data is not being changed. So for example, when working with logistics companies, you are part of a supply chain, a chain of different suppliers that move goods around. Now some consumers in Europe, for example, if they want to buy an export from Ghana, they want to really be sure where that export was taken out of. For example, if it's mining, and they are working with ore mining, they have to be absolutely certain that that ore came out of that specific mine at that date and time. And they do not want this data to be changed at all. So what they do is they register the extraction in a blockchain. So everybody in the next steps, now the trucking company, then the airplane, and then the train, and the retailer on the other side of France, for example, is able to check where specifically that technology was taken out of. So it's the idea of distributing information for having more trust in whatever is in that database.
So let's talk about a very popular one, the one we hear almost every day, artificial intelligence, AI. What is that?
Okay, AI. AI is not exactly a new technology. The first time AI was mentioned was 79 years ago. That was a little bit after the Second World War happened. And the Second World War used a lot of military engineers. People who were scientists and engineers started taking part of the military to work on logistics and to develop code, for example, to keep information safe. Now, at that time, people started considering the idea that the computer would become more powerful. And I think you can agree that computers are a lot more powerful in 2025 than they were in 1945, right? Some 80 years ago. So what happened with the technology is it became more and more powerful. So now we can say that the computer is able to simulate, to emulate, to copy the behavior of a human being. So we call it artificial intelligence because it's the computer trying to mimic human intelligence. That means creating new text. That can mean creating some videos. I don't know if you have been seeing the new release by Google with VO3 technology. So it's copying video. You have artificial intelligence that can synthesize a voice, so you can clone the voice of other people. That's also considered AI. And you can also make something that humans are very good, called a projection. When you project information into the future, you can make prediction. You can predict the price of goods. You can predict the volume of production. You can predict the weather, like a weather forecast. So all of this is helped by the use of artificial intelligence, this technology that mimics what humans do, but in a faster and more powerful way than human beings.
Okay, so my guest once again is Kenneth Correa, and he's taking us through his entrepreneurial journey. Now he's broken down a number of everyday or household concepts we really come across. Kenneth, let's still build on this. We also hear of another popular one, the metaverse. What is that about?
Yes, so the metaverse became very popular in October 2021. Remember, at this time, the world was going through a COVID pandemic. A lot of people in the Western world were locked up in their homes. Vaccinations were just beginning at that time. So it's a time when the use of technology became very popular, even with people that did not like technology at all. So I know in Ghana, WhatsApp is very popular. So a lot of people began using WhatsApp during the COVID-19. In the United States, the delivery of food was not very popular. After that, it became huge. So a company which used to be called Facebook changed their name to Meta because they said that they were going to focus all their investments, more than $15 billion and more than 10 years of investment in creating the metaverse. But now Kofi and Kenneth are like one looking at each other and say, okay, but what is the metaverse? Everybody wanted to know, what is Mark Zuckerberg going to invest $15 billion, even changing the name of his company? So the idea of the metaverse is an immersive social environment where people communicate and execute all sorts of experiences. The metaverse is used for gaming. For example, on Fortnite or Roblox, you have different players with different characters, or may I say avatars, which is the name they use in the metaverse.
Avatars.
People are very immersed into this game. So for example, my son who plays Roblox really feels like he's the one in that virtual world. And also, it's a social place, so he connects with other friends. He meets new people and execute different tasks. But it's not only for gaming. You can do that for tourism, where you can visit virtual copies of other places. Of course, people ask me, but isn't it better to travel in person? And I say, of course it is, but it's expensive. Not always we'll have the budget to go everywhere that we wanted. So if we can make a virtual tour from our home, for example, if I wanted to visit now the Iran or Gaza, I don't think those are safe regions for you to travel in person, but you can enjoy the experience of visiting these places by using virtual reality. So this is part of the metaverse. You can use it for training. I have a client, for example, which is a big factory that processes pulp from the trees to create paper. Now, these guys had to train hundreds of people every month that were new factory workers. And working in a factory as big as this one has a lot of safety hazards. There are parts of that factory that you shouldn't walk into. There is machinery in that factory that you really have to know how to use, or else you can lose your fingers, your arm, or even your life. So we recreated the environment of that factory. And now these hundreds of people are using VR glasses to have training sessions together with other employees and together with the instructor, so they learn how to transit into the factory and how also to use every different machinery in there. So I talked about games, I talked about tourism, I talked about education, and you can think of different applications in every other major business area. For example, if you work on a factory where you have to develop new products, they can use the metaverse to prototype. You have different engineers, each one of those in a different place of the world, and they can all work together in creating a physical, virtual prototype where they work together and share that very same space. So this is the metaverse.
All right. Let's look at the last one, AI agents. That's become popular in recent times. What are you referring to when we say AI agents?
Sure. AI agents is my current favorite. Of course, AI was the one before that and the metaverse before that one. But nowadays, the idea of AI agents is the basis for my book, Cognitive Organizations. I'm happy to share this is the Portuguese translation. So it's already translated to Portuguese, my mother language in Brazil. But I used AI agents to help me write this book. And I use that example to explain what is an AI agent. An agent is a piece of software, so it's technology, that can execute a task in the real world. For example, when I say writing a book, you can think of me typing words in a computer. But before I type the words, I have to do research. So I have to read other books. I had to read scientific papers. I have to watch videos. All of these tasks, I use the AI agents to accelerate, to make it faster. For you to have an idea, Kofi, the process of deciding to write the book and having the print book ready in my hands took 52 days. I never thought I could write a book in 52 days. But the thing is, throughout these 52 days, I read more than 300 scientific papers and more than 50 books. And I was only able to do that because I had AI on my side. First, to help me choose which books to read. Second, to help me summarize the book so I could go and read the specific chapters that made sense to what I was writing about. Then to compare the ideas on some scientific papers, I use only very recent papers. The book was published in 2024. All of the papers were from either 2024 or 2023. So very current topics and matters on the book. They helped me choosing and comparing and evaluating the quality of the book that I was writing. And then moving on, I had then to decide the chapters for the book. So how I was going to separate the different topics that I wanted to focus on the book. This was also made with the aid and help of these AI tools. So the thing is, I use AI as every AI agents to help me with every part of the book writing processes. And when I wrote the book, I wanted to talk about how companies themselves are being transformed by the use of these AI agents. Because I'm sitting now at the headquarters of my company, 80/20 Marketing. If you see, there's probably 40 or 50 people down in the hall below me. We have a lot of human beings creating in our company. But since 2023, we started combining the use of human and AI agents. And now we have hit productivity levels that we never had in the past 16 years of this company. Because now we can use these agents that use AI to perform tasks in the real world. That's the AI agents.
All right. So let's still talk about your book, Cognitive Organizations. Cognitive Organizations. I like the name, Cognitive Organization. You showed us a copy of it. Do you have an English version? And where can my audience buy a copy or read?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I published this book at September 2024 at the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Boston, United States. So I've written the English version first, and it's available at Amazon.com. So you can look for Cognitive Organizations at Amazon.com website, and you are able to buy the book. You can either buy a digital version of the book, or you can buy a physical version of the book out of Amazon.com website. But the thing is, when I wanted to call the book Cognitive Organizations, I had something in mind. Because, Kofi, I have been studying business administration for the past 20 years. And then when I look to the history of management, management is a very new science. It's actually 130, 140 years old only. Different from medicine, which spans 5,000 years, or even law, which spans like 3,000 years. Management is very, very recent. And throughout the times, for this past 130 years, we had some different schools of thought. You can organize management thinking in different groups of authors. So we had a group that started thinking about management, Frederick Taylor and Henry Ford, back in the 19th century. And then you pass on, you have like Max Weber talking about bureaucracy. And then in the 50s, you have this guy called Ludwig Berton, which talks about biology. And then you move on to the 90s, where you have total quality management by Deming. Yes. But when you reach the 2000, that's 25 years ago, there are no new schools. So the techniques and the management process we have been working with for the past 25 years, since the year 2000, are actually from the last century. And then I was feeling that we need a new school, we need a new moment, we need a new point in time where we have a more modern school of thought. And then I said, now in 2024 actually, when I wrote the book, we have this new technology, which is the AI agents. And I'm already seeing companies being transformed, not only my own companies, but companies from clients that I serve, being totally transformed by the use of AI. AI for customer service, AI for price prediction, AI for logistics and supply chain management. This is AI everywhere. It's something different. When I talk to my American English-speaking friends, we say, a company with AI is a complete different beast. It's a different beast to tackle and to handle. So my proposition in the book is that this new school of thought is the cognitive organizations era. The era where companies are a combination of human and AI agents working together towards the same goal, to reach a new goal. So that's what I talk about in the book. I have 13 examples of different companies already making use of AI agents inside their business operation, and with the success and also the failures that they went through.
Okay, right. That's very interesting. Still building on your book, right? And the practical implementation of what you talk about. Many companies today are interested in AI. They are interested in operationalizing AI in their business operations, but they are finding it very difficult to actually implement AI in their business operation. What does it take for an organization to transition from being AI curious to being AI fluent?
I love that point of view, Kofi. I've been talking about the curiosity, right? The AI curious being the company that is really trying to understand what AI is, what this beast really is, which is absolutely different from when you're really adopting that into everyday tasks. When every employee knows and remembers when to use AI for which different task to get better results. That's what I call the AI-fluent companies. So, on talking about the transition, I'm publishing an article at this very moment when I talk about the idea of stop building AI features and start building AI movements. And for me, one of the very important changes is when you stop just testing AI, just wanting to see what it can deliver, checking out this new tool that just came about, and you really start looking to your own processes, looking inside your organization, talking to customers to really hear what they have to tell you about what are they satisfied with, what could be better in your service, and then you use AI to change and implement changes on that very point. So the real change between just creating a feature and trying it out, which is nice, is a very good starting point, to when you become fluent is when you look at your processes and your customers, because that's where the results will come out of.
Thank you so much. So you've been on this journey for quite some time now, right? Like
Yeah.
any journey, there are highs, lows, and a lot of lessons. So I want us to spend some time talking about the highs, the lows, and the useful lessons you picked up over the years. Let's start with the highs. What are some of the highs? What are some of the achievements so far on this journey?
All right, sure, Kofi. One thing that we hear all the time is that AI is going to take everyone's jobs, right? Oh my God, AI is going to take my job. My boss will let me go because now he has this AI solution and all that. In reality, when I talk to companies, I've seen more AI hiring than AI layoffs. I see more companies hiring because of AI, because they need to develop solutions, they need to talk to customers, they need to create the products, they need to test it out, than really laying people off, letting people go because now everything is 100%. So one of the highs for me is the idea that as more efficient that we get, the more efficient that we get, the more we're going to need people. Because remember that companies are not focusing only on reducing costs. Because we have already learned for the past 30 or 40 years that if you focus on reducing costs, it's only a matter of time, then you disappear out of existence. Companies that are still alive today are companies that understand that they need to grow. So AI is now the fuel for this company's growth. And again, Kofi, a lot of the tasks being automated by the use of AI are tasks that really I don't think human beings should be ever doing, right? So we have a big airline company in Brazil that uses AI, generative AI, in the chatbot to talk to customers. Do you know what is the question they get asked the most?
No, what's that question?
People open up the customer service agent and ask, what time my plane departures? That's the most common question. Now the computer asks, what's your reservation number? 2345. Your plane will departure 8 p.m. Do you really think we need a human being for that? Of course, when you have a customer in trouble, when you have a customer that has to change a reservation to a different destination, a more complex inquiry, a human being is the only way to solve that. But for these everyday questions that they get in a huge volume, imagine more than 60% of the questions are, what time my plane departures? So the idea is of a high is getting to automate tasks that should never be done by human beings at all. It's good, and I'm happy that we have the technology for that right now.
All right.
But you also asked me for the lows. Yes, of course. You asked me about the lows. I talked to a bank in Switzerland that they did not want to change their salespeople for AI agents. They wanted the salespeople to be human beings because they will visit customers and they will talk to them and they will adapt in the conversation, which is nice. But the bank decided that the sales manager, who was a person who used to work in an office, could be traded for an AI. So what they did is they put AI as the boss. So now at the beginning of the week, The AI set the quota. Okay, Kofi, you have to sell $1 million this week. Kenneth, you have to sell $800,000 this week. Now during the week, when it gets to Wednesday, he asks, hey Kofi, I see here in the system that you only sold 200,000. You're not going to reach your $1 million quota. You have to change this and this and that in your approach. Hey Kenneth, I see that you are ahead of quota, so I'll change your 800,000. Now you have to sell 1,200,000. And now people, the salespeople, they're hating that. Because I think I can safely say that nobody likes a boss, right? It's good to have a fight with your boss and you have conflicts and all that when it's a human boss. But now when your boss is a computer, you can't even get mad at a computer, right? Because you know the computer is not getting mad at you at back. So this was a low case where the company tried to automate a task where you really need the human's relations. Because being a good sales manager is not about sending a WhatsApp message with the weekly quota. It's being there for the person, is making visits together with that person, is helping out and coaching them into improving their sales processes. So one of the lows that I'm seeing some companies do is trying to automate with AI tasks where human beings are a lot more efficient with a lot more higher quality deliverables than AIs.
Okay, so let's talk now about the lessons. So you've been on this journey for a very long time, and I like how you brought us right from the start over the years as up until this point in time. What are the useful lessons you picked up over the period?
Kofi, I think in the book I made a list of 12 lessons that I learned. I won't be able to talk about all of them right now, but I'll try to keep it focus on the ones that I didn't talk yet. So one of the first things that was very clear as a lesson by adopting AI agents into company is being really clear about what is better done by AI and what's better done by human beings. So this separation is very important. The second one, never try to automate a whole process, like 100% automated. You need what AI people and thinkers would call the human in the loop. A human being as a part of the process. So don't ever go for a 100% automatic. Not because you're trying to save people's job. That's not it. It's because really AIs can hallucinate a lot. They can absolutely go out of focus and start creating answers or solutions or replies that make no sense. So having human beings as a part of the process being the second leadership that I got. Third one, you have to prioritize. It's very important to start where it hurts the most. Don't try to automate tasks that happens every once in a while. Don't try to automate a task which is very complex. You should go, and I create a matrix in the book where I talk about aiming at the simple and most repetitive tasks. Tasks that happen every day, multiple times a day. There's a company that I work with which sells logistics, freight, does freight, moving things from one place to another. They now automated more than 3,000 emails per day that used to rely on a person having to answer to that email, collect all the information. They were able to automatize 100% of that processes with human beings in the loop. So now the person is not focused on replying to emails. The person is focused on reviewing the email and just making minor changes or adaptations where it's needed. So I think those are 3 lessons that I've learned that I'd like to share with your audience today.
All right, so we are just about wrapping up. But for young professionals and entrepreneurs listening, what mindset or skills are essential for thriving in this cognitive era?
Kofi, I will tell you that is the greatest time to be alive ever. Because we are in a moment, in a crossroads, where there's a new technology called generative artificial intelligence, which really has the potential to change everything about how we do and manage businesses. If you're a young entrepreneur, if you're a young talent joining the market now, you're able to become a specialist. You're able to become a high-level user of this technology, and that will put you ahead of the competition. So my tip for anyone getting into the market is to really dive deep into learning and understanding more about this technology called generative AI, adopting it as an everyday tool, just the very same way we use the mobile phone and WhatsApp and Google Chrome, we should be using AI tools every day. I really like the path that Google is taking with Google Gemini. It's the product that Google has released, which is really delivering better results than every other solution in the market. So it's a very special time to become a Google Gemini specialist, for example.
All right. So before I sign off, what will be your last words of advice or your last words to my listeners and viewers?
Well, if your listener has kept up with us for this past 40 minutes, I think they are pretty much hyped up into using generative AI. But if not, remember, AI is not here to take your job. AI is not here to take away the possibility of being creative and developing new businesses and servicing clients. Companies, cognitive organizations are going to happen with the merge of human and AI working together to be able to build, to be able to deliver results and solutions to problems that we never solved. I really predict that in the next 10 years, up to 25, we'll be able to solve problems who are really deep, who really can change the reality of the 8.5 billion people around our planet. So I invite you to get closer and near to this technology, to learn about it, and to bring it and adopt it to your everyday work that you can be, so then you can be a part of that change.
All right. So thank you so much, Kenneth Correa, for sharing your rich experience with us today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. We wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, Kofi. Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure to be here with you today.
So this has been another exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. I'll come your way next time with another inspiring and exciting episode. I remain your host, Kofi Animedu. As always, do take good care of yourself and let's continue to keep hope alive. Cheers.
Cheers.